Do I need the last one? Okay, good. Okay, to wrap things up, pretty much going to be echoing actually what Sam said, just as a little intro. I'm going to be using what Orleans are trying to do and not trying to reinvent the wheel, but trying to utilize existing knowledge and resources on the Cape to see how we can implement it in Falmouth. And the reason for me is just a little bit of background is I'm originally from the UK. I think the accent gives it off. And I was here at BC as an exchange. And I did a class this semester on post-communist transition, and it got me really thinking about energy security in the UK and Europe as a whole and the threat that we're facing. And that's how my interest is piqued into energy coaches and how we can get the community on board and committed to the long-term vision. So to get things started, specifically now looking at why Falmouth, I was just looking at the data of residents across the Cape. And I know Falmouth has the second most year-long residents on the Cape. It's also a green community member. And we'll touch on this later in the statistics, but over 50% of its greenhouse gases are emitted by stationary sources, such as cooling and heating buildings. So I thought Falmouth makes a great case to implement energy coaches, and it will continue to lead by example if we can get this done. So this is the bigger picture perspective, which I thought puts things into perspective of how local, regional, state, it gets us towards the same picture and image, which is engaging with the community, because I generally believe, and I think this is a gathered consensus of education and engagement is critical anywhere, but in Falmouth to be able to reach net zero by 2050. So the purpose here is I've pulled out specifics from the Falmouth Climate Protection Action Plan and also the Cape Cod Commission to really show just how they align, essentially. So there's a lot of emphasis on re-education commitment, town encourages and education and engagement. And the final thing I want to touch on, which I think is a lot about learning best practices, is lessons learned and strategies for collaboration from other regional planning processes on Cape Cod. So this is essentially the bigger picture of why I think this would be great. And then just to get into the metrics now, my favorite part. So I've been using Cape Cod Commission, their regional plan, and this is the updated version. So right here, you could see the two leading ones are transportation and stationary energy. But what's interesting for Falmouth is it's actually stationary energy, which probably makes sense given they have the second most year-round residents, that it's actually the residential buildings that emit the most. And I think this is where we can get the community engagement piece out there and really press the community on behaviors, what can we do going forward to get the collective vision towards the net zero 50. And just again, another graphic to really emphasize on was from the Falmouth Climate Protection Action Plan. The town really only makes 4% of emitting greenhouse gases. And as we'll go forward, it's really going to be the 96% that's going to get Falmouth towards the finish line locally, but also to go ahead and set an example and continue to lead by being a green community member. And again, continuing by leading by example, the town has already done a lot in improving infrastructure, purchasing EV cars, installing rooftop solar on the Community Veterans Center, the East Falmouth Fire Station, and insulating buildings. And just to touch on other things, also the Energy Committee is also engaging with the community. So I know this month, we're in August, last month, July 17th, they tabled at the farmers market with Cape Light Compact to get dialogue with individuals in the community about energy conservation and energy efficiency. And they also had speakers in the past regarding electric sector modernization. An MIT En-ROADS Climate Solutions Simulator. So essentially, there is momentum in Falmouth, and there's great work being done by the town, as evident. But I think this will get them, in my opinion, to a more involved piece. And I really like the concept of meeting people where they're at. I think like maybe webinars and online things or like meetings such as this are great, but not everyone has the time and is able to take the time to come. So if we're able to meet people where they're at, whether it's a farmer's market, whether it's an open house at the senior center, I think that's how we get the most engagement. And this is me using what Orleans has done. So not inventing the wheel, just learning from our neighbors, which is crucial. And this is just to give you the outline of what it looks like. So their aim was to engage and reach individuals in the community who want to make a change, but they're either unsure where to start and also like, what does the feasibility look like? Because I know cost is also a big thing surrounding energy efficiency and energy changes and behaviors. And the how. So essentially what they've done, excuse me, is they've recruited individuals from the community who have an appetite and they want to learn more about energy behaviors, or also those with experience. Sorry, it should be climate resilience, that it should be there. And then the where is it's the volunteers, as I mentioned, will meet people where they're at and be like a source of advice / directing to relevant sources. So if they personally have the knowledge that the person is seeking, they can give it to them. Or if they don't, they could be the chain, for example, to Cape Light Compact. And then the utilize is the training agenda. So Orleans have actually been very generous and they've given me their training agenda that they carried out over 2 days and the topics they covered. So again, we can use it as a guidance tool or maybe just tailor it to Falmouth's needs as needed, depending what the community is saying they need. And then the long-term vision is how I'm looking at this is how can we make an interconnection from Orleans to Falmouth, but then, oh, sorry, we'll go back to it, but also connect the entire Cape as a whole. And the final thing is zero operational costs to the town. So this is volunteers. Training was provided by Cape Light Compact. So we're just asking for people's times, which I know can be expensive, but we have committed individuals in the community from what I've seen. So I think we can get it going. And then the next step. So my tool that I thought of creating to help the town was a flyer. So this is something that I'll share with Stephanie, sustainability specialist, and she'll be able to tailor it as needed. But I thought it would be great to start to distribute it in places once we know how to get involved and the key contacts. And 2 resources we can use will be the local network. So FalCan is the Falmouth Cape Cod Collaboration Network, which meets climate action, sorry. And then we also have the Faith Communities Engagement, environmental, there you go, correcting me, environmental network, which also meets every month, or at least here they don't meet for the 2 busiest months, which are July and August. And I've also spoken with Susan, who's in the crowd, and I know she was very enthusiastic about it. So this is essentially providing the local resources, which are very important, to be able to be the source of getting this implemented in Falmouth and how we can engage the network and get people's time if possible. And I think this really summarizes my long-term vision of how could this be something envisioned in the Cape. So these are all the towns on the Cape, 15. And I thought if we can manage to share lessons and strategies, beginning with Orleans to Falmouth, and then somehow, I don't know how long it's going to take, but the long term is to have all best practices shared, such as the energy programs or whatever else can come out, such as the healthcare that Sam mentioned. But yeah, this is my proposal.
Questions for Halema?